How's it going, everyone? I have finally come back from DreamHack, and I believe that I have the best 5 decks that are available for the post-patch of the Voyage of the Sunken City mini set. Not only because I've played a lot of Hearthstone in the past couple of weeks, but also I got second place at the DreamHack Hearthstone tournament. Granted, there weren't that many people, but I still believe that I know exactly what to play in order to help you get Legend. So let's go ahead and see what the best decks in the meta are right now. But let's go ahead and get this started, because the first deck I want to show you guys is Jackpot Rogue. This is actually a legitimate archetype that is somewhat replacing what the Thief Rogue package used to be, with like double agents and more of a tempo matchup. But now this deck is just all in on being able to kill people with pirates, and now you have an additional scam thanks to Jackpot and the Trickster that's available in this deck. You may have seen a list that was running around with Sprint, but I believe that people have finally caught on that Sprint is just not good enough to keep up with this deck. You really just don't have any way of playing it unless you do it with Trickster, but Jackpot gives you some amazing win cons. I'm gonna see if I can't find the clip in order to show you guys right now, but there was one game where I was able to find to the fronts, to the lines, whatever the Paladin 9-mana legendary is, or 9-mana spell, and you get a bunch of value from this card if you have the perfect situation happen to where you have your Trickster value, and it's just absolutely amazing the steamrolls that can be possible with this deck. Like I said, Jackpot is more of a scam card, so don't think that you're just supposed to like go in for this card every single time. There may be some situations to where if you have the Jackpot and the Trickster already in hand, then definitely keep them both. There have been times that I have kept this card and it really just didn't do exactly what I needed it to, because by the time that it was turn 5, I really didn't want to play the spell. But to be honest, there are a lot of really good cards that Rogue can take advantage of that are 5 mana or more. But aside from the scam aspect of this deck, it's just essentially what Burgle Rogue, or I'm sorry, what Maestro Rogue pretty much already was, with the Null package, with Ashara and Smite to be able to kill your opponent. Krakatoa, easily one of the best colossal minions out there right now outside of Nelly, but this deck has pretty much gone through a major change because the Jackpot scam gives you so much room for potential, to the point where even some people are cutting Shadow Step, the best card in Rogue, in order to make Contraband Stash as well as Test Greymane possible with this. I have not played this list personally, so I cannot attribute to its success, but a lot of pro players such as Feno believe that this might be the best way to play it. Ike also was able to play this deck to great success. I'll put a screenshot up here in order to show you about what rank he's sitting at right now. I think he might have just posted it on Twitter. I don't know if he had exactly the rank to go with it, but regardless, there are a lot of really pro players that believe in this deck, and I actually played this deck while I was at DreamHack, and I had a pretty decent win rate with it. I think I went 9-5 or 9-7 with the deck. Regardless, I was able to climb the diamond with this list, so I believe that if anyone is interested in Rogue, you can definitely get some insane results with Jackpot Rogue. This next deck I'm not going to spend too much time over because not much has changed since the mini set, but Naga Priest is still very alive and very good right now due to the fact that Serpent Wig got a much needed buff in order to give this archetype a little bit of room. The reason why I'm showcasing this particular list is because Levik was able to qualify for Worlds with this particular lineup with Naga Priest, and I watched some of the gameplay that he had, and he did a lot of very impressive stuff with this list, to the point where I actually believe that running a Viper is very, very crucial right now, especially in the tournament format, to where if you're seeing a lot of Paladins, this card is absolutely a must in a lot of your decks right now, because Paladin is just it's just really, really good. It's probably the second best deck of the game right now, and we'll get to that list here in a second. But this list feels very, very good. One Queen's Guard feels like the perfect fit, while you have the same old packages that we're already accustomed to, with Radiant Elementals cheating mana, Samoro being your one comeback card if you're able to combine it with Bless, absolutely game-winning to kind of give you an advantage. And I believe that Najak is actually 100% core in this deck for one of 2 reasons. The Boar Priest matchup, very, very obvious. You know, you take a Boar, you automatically win the game. But in the Naga Mage matchup, this happened several times on the broadcast. I think at least twice during Levik's games. He was able to play Najak into a Siren, a Spitelash Siren. And if you are smart enough to put together what happens when you combine a bunch of Nagas and spells and get mana back with this deck that can already mana cheat, you do a lot of ridiculous things. And this deck should definitely not have access to Spitelash Summoner, but Najak does give you that possibility. So I believe that this is 100% core in this deck. Other than that, this list has not changed all too much, but Naga Priest is still a very real powerhouse in the meta right now. It just really depends on its matchup against Control Warrior in order to see if it's still dominant in the next couple of weeks. This next list is yet another deck from the summer seasonals that happened this weekend, and this time it's Habgabu's Fel Demon Hunter. He was also able to make it to Worlds, so big congratulations to Habgabu, but Demon Hunter has been going through a renaissance of sorts where we don't have Drekthar anymore, so aggro Demon Hunter is kind of falling out of favor to the point where we're going towards this more mid-range, late game, not really late game heavy, but you know, it has a late game finisher to the point where you're not just running cards that are less than 6 mana anymore. Now you actually have the Celestalon is laughing at me right now. Zilag, Sheet. I'm just gonna keep going. This card is really good right now because it got buffed, and you have a high roll potential with Carry of Felsoul to where if you have coin on turn 6, or I'm sorry, you have coin on turn 5, you can play this as early as turn 5 or on turn 6, obviously. But this is kind of a toss-up because some people are comparing this to patches. Obviously, if you draw your Abyss before you get this value, it is just kind of a dead card. But the high roll potential can literally win games, which is why I believe that it's not that bad to run the deck right now. Blademaster Okani, according to Habgabu, was more of a tournament tech, so if you guys don't want to run this card, feel free to cut it for another Fel card or for some other damage card that's going to work with your Lady Setheno, or maybe you could also run the Naga that helps you discount your AAECAZ cards. Let me see if I can't find that card real quick, because I am blanking on the name of that. I think it's like Sage something. Oh, here it is. Wayward Sage. It's kind of hard to see it off of the cutoff of the screen, but I don't think that you absolutely need Okani, but this deck still feels very, very solid due to the fact that you're just doing Demon Hunter things. And honestly, Fossil Fanatic is amazing. A lot of people were giving some of the devs a little bit of a hard time on the nerf to multi-strike because the Drekthar nerf was really the big thing that needed to be addressed. But if Fossil Fanatic and multi-strike still was able to combo for 3 mana with a 1 mana multi-strike possibility, this would just be way too powerful. So I think that multi-strike did get the proper nerf that it needed. Now that we have the context that this card is something that's very good for Demon Hunter. If you guys have listened to the Vicious Syndicate podcast, they said that dropping this card on turn 1 with coin is almost impossible for a lot of decks to be able to deal with. So there might be some situations to where you can literally coin your Fossil Fanatic into a multi-strike, which automatically gives you 2 card drawing on turn 2 and 4 damage going into a minion and to the opponent's face. Or 2 damage into a minion and then 4 damage total. You get what I'm trying to say. But regardless, this deck has a lot of really powerful synergies. It has a lot of burst potential, and we also get to run Jace Darkweaver again. I don't know why people were really cutting this card in the first place, but it's found a home yet again because Fel Demon Hunter can work as a very legitimate strategy. I don't think you need Brand in this deck because it has plenty of gas, and Control Warrior is probably going to be the matchup that's going to give you the most amount of problems. And if you're worried about Paladins, then honestly, you could just sub out Okani, potentially for a Viper as well. So there's a lot of different tech decisions that you can make in this deck, but to be honest, I'm honestly a big fan of the Blademaster Okani, so I'm going to go ahead and probably test this deck out later to see how good it is. But if you want my honest opinion, you might need a Viper on the ladder because, again, Paladins are everywhere right now. And speaking of Paladin, here's the deck. Here's the good Paladin deck right now that a lot of people are playing to the point where this is the second most powerful deck in the meta right now. It's absolutely amazing what the Light Ray inclusion did for this deck to give it a ridiculous amount of buffs. I believe that some people are still cutting the Sunfishes for the Mimrodon, but there are a lot of people that are also saying that this card just really isn't worth it because the only things you really have to combo off are cards that really you want to save for your burst potential, or cards that you want to pop off with Pyromancer, with like Holy Mackie Roll and City Tat, or I'm sorry, with Flash of Light. This card just really doesn't have a lot of ways to be used right now because there's just not a lot of things that buff your minions. You just have a lot of ways of being able to heal. Maybe this fits in a different deck, but right now, I believe that Shimmering Sunfish is just the way to play this deck right now because you want to play for absolute defense. Cariel wins games if your opponent just doesn't play Viper. We already are aware of this right now. So that's the main reason why this deck is absolutely dominant. But you have insane burst potential with your Smite, with your Garden's Grace, but you also just have lots of ways of being able to pressure board since you have ways of being able to buff your minions with the Alliance Bannerman. Leviathan is very, very chunky, very hard to get rid of, and helps set up your next turns. Obviously, Cariel gives you these amazing setups, and Righteous Defense just gives you everything that you need in order to buff your minions and deal with your opponent's threats. This deck has so many ways of being able to clear, so many ways of being able to heal to where you don't even need to burst your opponent, but you still have that finisher in the matchups where it does matter or where you just need to end the game ASAP. So Holy Paladin is the second best deck in the game right now, like I've said about 3 times in this video so far. So if you want to be able to climb the fastest, this might be one way to do it if you're at the lower ranks going into the diamond ranks. The diamond ranks, you're going to see more players that are trying to counteract this particular deck to where maybe you need to play this next deck I'm about to show you. Because this next deck is just obviously the best deck in the meta right now, and guess what? It's a warrior deck. And here it is. Here's the Control Warrior that's absolutely dominating the ladder right now. There's been a lot of different builds running around from Charge Warrior to Dragon Kazakhstan Control Warrior, but I believe that this Elemental Control Warrior is actually the best in the meta right now. And I'm going to be doing a lot of testing with this deck to see just how busted it is, and I'm probably going to make a video about it as well. But regardless, let me go ahead and move this up a little bit because the most important card in this list from the mini set, Tidal Revenant. I thought this card was not going to be good enough because gaining armor and dealing damage is already pretty good for Warrior, so why do we need this 8-mana card in our deck? This card is insane, to say the least, especially if you get it from the depths for 5 mana, but that's not the biggest reason why this card is even that busted. It's in combination with everything else that this deck has. You have so much armor gain in this deck. Let's just go ahead and look at all the armor cards, because we have another new card to show, Igneous Lava Gorger, that gives you armor equal to the cost of the card that you dredge. So if you get a Shield Shatter, that's just 10 mana. If you decide to get your Nyxia or any of your big dragons, that's a ridiculous amount of mana. Ridiculous amount of armor as well. But the biggest thing about this card is the fact that your From the Depths value becomes so much better. But we'll get into the dredge aspect here in a second. Let's go ahead and look at all the armor cards. So we got Frozen Bucklers, we've got Heavy Plates, we've got Shield Block, we've got Lava Gorgers, we've got Potential out of the Nelly, but I'm not going to count that. We've got Rokara, we've got Tidal Revenant, and we've even got Alexstrasza for additional healing. I'm not going to do the math because I'm lazy on how much armor that is, but that's a lot of life, and a lot of decks can't even get to the point where if you gain like 10 armor, sometimes that's just enough for some decks. Okay, maybe that's a bit of an overstatement, but regardless, there's just so much armor for Warrior. How is any deck that's trying to actively kill people, how are they going to get over the hump? And then you also have this that's also dealing 5 damage, so not only are you healing yourself for 8, you're dealing 5 damage, which potentially gets rid of anywhere from, like, 2 to 10 attack, depending on the situation. So you have this amazing threshold of being able to not only gain armor, but remove your opponent's threats. So that's automatically giving you even more value. So this card just is absolutely insane. The rest of the deck is already kind of, what it has been for quite some time with just regular control tools. 1 Brawl seems to be good enough because you have all these minions that have such amazing payoff turns. 1 Forged in Flame in order to give you some kind of cycle combo. And just this deck just seems to be the best right now. I also have Dragon Warrior that I brought to the DreamHack tournament, so this deck is still all very good right now if you want to play Kazakhstan. And to be honest, there were some arguments that were saying that this is the deck to counter the Elemental Warrior deck out of all of the major strategies going around in Standard right now. So in the best meta, or I'm sorry, in the top of the meta right now, if all of you're seeing is Warrior, then this is probably going to be the best version of Control Warrior to play because it does have Kazakhstan to give you that extended late game that normal Control Warrior just cannot deal with more times than not. So if you're seeing a lot of Warrior, this is the deck to play. But if you're going for your Legend climb, like from whatever rank, this is the best one to play right now because there are so many decks that just cannot deal with the amount of armor gain, with the amount of damage, and the amount of clears that this deck has. It's just ridiculous how powerful Control Warrior is right now, and to be honest, I would not be surprised to see it nerfed in the next Battles patch. Those are the top 5 best decks to be playing in this format right now, but if you guys are not interested in playing any of the decks that I've shown you so far, don't worry, I've still got plenty of other lists that I would love to show you right now. 2 of them I'm just going to go ahead and knock out really quickly because I've been talking about them all season. Naga Mage, still good. There's nothing that's really changed about this deck, except for the fact that Warrior is really, really popular, so it's not really a good it's not a good ladder deck. It's a very good tournament deck, and I did very well with this list during my time at DreamHack, which, by the way, I also earned money from. Whoop, whoop. Let's go. Rein in the cash, guys. Let's go. But regardless, Naga Mage still really, really good. Pig Priest also still very good. I don't think this deck is going to be going anywhere, especially in top 1000 Legend. But this is probably not the deck that you want to use on your Legend climb unless you're seeing a lot of Control Paladin and Control Warrior. At top Legend, this deck becomes a little bit up in the air because we've got Celestial Druids running around, which I would also not recommend using on your Legend climb. But Pig Priest, still a very real deck, but I believe that these 2 decks are just not going anywhere. They're very, very powerful, and they also can beat a decent amount of the meta, but they are kind of put off to the side due to the fact that their main weaknesses are in Tier 1 right now. The next deck is Bomb Rogue. What shock. Bomb Rogue got so much support that it's really surprising that more people aren't playing this, but unfortunately with the amount of warriors running around right now, it's kind of hard for this deck to get a good grip because, again, warrior and paladin are the main driving forces of the meta, so if your deck does not beat them, you need to beat everything else, so luckily Bomb Rogue can actually beat everything else. It's pretty much the same thing, except now we have the addition of a Shatter Shambler, which gives us potential to high roll with our Snowfall Graveyard and our mines in case we don't have ways of being able to kill them. We still have these insane burst potentials, but this deck really didn't get a bunch of love from the mini set outside of this one card. Some people are starting to run Peasant now in order to give this deck a little bit more gas, but unfortunately, it's just very dependent on how consistently you're able to get your death rattles to pop off. Bomb Rogue is a very good deck in order to have very quick games and potentially give you a somewhat quick legend climb. Just know that if you're seeing a lot of warriors and a lot of paladins, this deck is not going to perform as well as you think. Next up is Murloc Shaman, and the only reason why I'm showing this deck is because while I was at DreamHack, I died on turn 3 to it. I'm going to say that again. I died on turn 3 to Murloc Shaman. And to be honest, I'm going to go ahead and explain my thought process during this because I was hoping for Zarella clears. If I got that Zarella clear, it was probably 100% guaranteed for me to win this game. But here's the highlight in order to show you guys just how painful this moment was for me. But regardless, this looks like the potential to be one of the best aggro decks out there, but aggro really just doesn't thrive in this meta with Control Warrior and Control Paladin being a thing. I believe that if you are a newer player and you don't have that much dust, if you don't have, well, I mean, there are some legendaries in here, but you don't 100% need the Flurgle and the Cookie. You could just sub them out for more, just more Murlocs just to give yourself a lot of board, but I would highly suggest getting Flurgle. Cookie's a little bit up in the air, but if you have the mini set from the previous expansion, then you already have him. Regardless, this deck has some potential, but aggro is very, very limited right now, but I still think this is one of the best aggro decks to play, and also Murlocs. Murlocs are fun, right? Last but certainly not least is Naga Demon Hunter. I believe that this is a pretty interesting take on what Demon Hunter can become because I just absolutely love School Teacher as a card. Demon Hunter also has a lot of really insane cards that deal a lot of damage for less than 3 mana. The one thing I'm not really sure about is why we're cutting Jace. I believe that, you know, with all of the Fel cards that we're running, we're still running Furies, we're still running Chaos Strike, Fel Barrage, Multi-Strike. There are a lot of tools to give us gas, but I believe the reason why we're not running it is because this deck just probably doesn't need the late game. Like, you're already pressuring a lot of tempo, so I think that this deck is just going all in on being able to close out games as quickly as possible, but the inclusion of Wayward Sage really makes me want to play a Jace in this deck. I don't know, maybe that's just me being a little bit of a greedy player, because again, we still have all of these Fel spells that work so well, and we already got like a Cariel Zelak combo, so I feel like we need some kind of late game consistency. But Jombre is a better player than me. He's still winning with this deck at around top 200 legend in EU, so believe me when I say that this deck could be a very real driving force in the meta if maybe Control Warrior and Paladin get dealt with. This is more of something way down the line, but this deck is still playable, and you might be able to have success with it at the lower rating, at the lower ranks, due to the fact that it is just a deck that aims to hit people in the face a lot of the time. So if you're looking for something for your legend climb, you might hit a wall around the diamond ranks, but going up to there, you'll probably have some pretty decent games and get some good wins. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for being so patient during the past week. I have not stopped making content. I'm still making videos. The only thing I was waiting for was for the mini set update, and then obviously I had DreamHack to go to. But I am back home. I've got lots of content ideas, fresh evergreen content that I am currently working on and hammering out. So feel free to subscribe to the channel in order to make sure you guys are ready for that information and ready for those videos when they come out. But I'm going to be doing a lot more streaming and a lot more content creation. So we'll hopefully see you guys for the next video. But for right now, I want you guys to hit legend. If you have any success with these decks, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and I'd love to see how you guys are enjoying Hearthstone right now. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this video. I'll see you for the next one.